Good evening, I'm Louise Bianco and welcome to Real, a program that sheds light on Melbourne from the perspective of young Melburnians. Tonight we're considering the adversity and diversity of all things hair. That's right, hair. We cut it, wax it, colour it, and roughly 53,000 Australians make a profession out of it. But what makes hair such a lucrative industry? In tonight's episode of Real, we investigate the psychology behind our own vanity. In a world where Miley Cyrus cutting her hair and then deciding to grow it back out again can provide media outlets with months' worth of content, it's unsurprising that we've chosen this topic. Through a compilation of personal stories and skits, what you'll find in this episode of Real is that everyone suffers from a little bit of anxiety when it comes to their hair. In our first segment, we take you into a world where greasy hair, the occasional bout of head lice, and a starting wage of less than $7 an hour is just a normal day at the office, where a day-long smile is a prerequisite and sitting down is not an option. If you think hairdressing is an easy profession, our next segment might surprise you.
So I went to get my hair cut the other day, and it got me wondering, is hairdressing really all glamour? This is the side of hairdressing you don't see.
Come the end of a 12-hour day, we go home with colour stains all over us, hair down the top, very itchy.
You really can't be bothered sometimes. Like, you're not always in a happy mood and you always have to seem to be in a happy mood. And that can be really, really hard sometimes, especially if it's been a longer day.
You end up wearing flat shoes for most of the day. You get sore feet, sore legs, sore backs, so it's not very glamorous at all.
So there you have it. With sore feet, sore backs and long hard hours, hairdressing is just not as glamorous as you might think.
I don't know about you, but I certainly won't be taking my hairdresser for granted anymore. First it was the war on drugs, then it was the war on terror, and now it appears that it's the war on bald? In our second segment of the night, we poke fun at what it means to be bald on the dating scene. With the introduction of toupees, plugs, and somewhat other unconventional means of hiding the bald, we ask the question, is the solution worse than the problem?
Imagine, it's a first date and you've organised a time,
location,
and an outfit to suit.
but holy moly, you suddenly realise you're bald.
Balder than a sphinx.
But never fear,
And take that paper bag off your head
because we have the tips and tricks.
to beating the bald.
A toupee with the right blend and colour is sure to provide the perfect disguise.
Do you think she can tell?
No. Of course not.
Perhaps more suited for a night out dancing. Plugs inserted into the scalp provide a more expensive but firmly held down solution.
That's a little fresh.
Why settle for a wig when you can have a whole new face?
Is that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? No, silly, it's your future husband.
So there you have it,
You have a means?
to beat the bald. What about a hat?
Well, with all things considered there, maybe the all-natural bald look isn't so bad after all. There certainly were some hair-raising alternatives suggested. With a horde of A-list celebrities including George Clooney, Ben Affleck, Ryan Gosling, and we shudder to remember Brad Pitt, having all recently donned one, it is undeniable that the full-fledged beard is back in fashion. But where does a fad like this fit into this season of Real's theme of diversity? In our next segment, we ventured out into Melbourne, the fashion capital of Australia, and discovered that not all beards are the same. And as Brad would know, some pull it off better than others. Take a look.
Long hair, short hair, straight hair, facial hair, bad facial hair, red hair.
Every human since the dawn of time has cared about how they look, and this starts and ends with hair.
From the sophistication of the 20s to the outrageous styles of the 90s, hair has always been on the agenda. But when it comes to facial hair, well, it might be making a comeback, but not everyone's impressed.
Never liked them, mate. Never had a beard in me life.
I just out of pure laziness. I forget to charge my shaver, so I haven't done it yet.
Throughout the years, hairstyles have come and gone. But no matter what's deemed fashionable at the time, it's clear that we really do care about the state of our hair. Personally, It's a bit overrated if you ask me.
Well, there was definitely a diverse range of styles going on there, but if it's all the same, you probably won't see me joining that particular fad anytime soon. After this commercial break, we invite you to join us for a sneak peek into the lives of some of the most courageous people in the world, people who face and overcome relentless scrutiny on a daily basis. I am, of course, talking about the life of a ginger. Welcome back to Real, where tonight we're exploring the adversity and diversity associated with hair. Historically, hair has always proven fascinating, and I'm not just talking about the infamous Rachel hairstyle of the 90s. Long before Miley twerked and Friends premiered, the ancient Romans used hair and wigs as a means of identifying social status. In fact, unlike today, where people spend thousands of dollars trying to make their hair look natural, the Romans purposefully created outlandish and unnatural styles to show off their wealth. But what happens when your hair turns against you? Taking it into a modern day context and staying with this season's themes of adversity and diversity, our next segment looks at a particular prejudice associated with hair. So answer this. Do you have fair, freckled skin? Does your hair resemble a carrot? Is the existence of your soul continually called into question? Well, if you answered yes to any of the above, this might be the movie for you.
Hi, my name is Rosie. And I'm a redhead.
What a riveting story about overcoming adversity against all odds. Now, I hear the feature-length edition has not yet received funding, but it's surely only a matter of time. When you hear the word barbershop, you often associate the term with masculinity and specifically men's hairstyling. However, in our next segment, the Barbershop Quartet, this stereotype is challenged. Directed by Alex Vumard, this documentary illustrates that a modern-day barbershop has no age or gender restrictions and can function just as much as a community and self-esteem booster as it can a means of simply tending to your hair. If you go deeper than what you see at face value, you might just be surprised. Let's take a look.
Barbering goes way back. Barbering goes back from, well, the time of the pharaohs. The high priests and the healers were the only ones allowed to cut the hair of the monarchs, of the leaders at the time. Hair was very sacred at the time, so they'd have rituals around cutting hair as well. Barbering, like, the history is quite long. I don't know if you want to, do you want to hear it all? So I'm Gus, I'm from Barber Black Sheep in Fitzroy. This is my first shop. I started off obviously studying and then working for a few people. Found that really dissatisfying. I just wanted to create a business for myself, and I've always come from creative fields. So I just thought barbering was a very interesting thing, something I've always kind of had in the back of my mind. And I never approached it, and here I am. When I was growing up, barbers wore the white coats out in the country, and they gave you 3 to 4 cuts. Nothing outside of that. There was no fashion cuts, there was no long cuts. You had to have your hair short, or they'd send you out to the hairdresser down the road. They would then cut your hair and you might be able to return to the barber, so you can do it in 10 minutes. Those days are basically gone now. I love the shortcuts. I love the vintage cuts. It's more of a fusion these days with vintage. And definitely love the cutthroat shaves. I find it very meditative for me, and usually I find sometimes the guys fall asleep even in it. I mean, that's a great compliment to me because it means they've got total trust in me. It's making people feel good about themselves. They clearly come in and a lot of them usually state that they're a mess and you fix it up. You know, you're barbers really in a kind of way. Even though we deal with the physical side, we're mental healers as well. We actually help people feel good about themselves. So the red and white barber pole that you actually see, the red actually means bandaging, as in blood or bloodletting, and the white indicated the actual the barbering side of it. I think the whole vintage, everything that's vintage has come back again, really, and I think that's a strong association with that. Give all respect to barbering from the past, but it's a new era. It's a good profession, you know, and I want to return it to that.
Yeah, 6 o'clock, mate. Yeah. Yep, no worries. We'll see you then. Okay, bye. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm the barber at Royal Crown in Hawthorn. I had to choose off the short list of possibilities I could do. Hairdressing came up and did that. Got offered an apprenticeship, that was my ticket out of school, and then did 4-year apprenticeship and moved over into barbering afterwards after hating hairdressing. So yeah, and then loved it ever since. Then found out years later that my great-grandfather was a barber, so that was sort of pretty freaky.
Hey, I'm Natalie Coleman and I'm from Royal Crown Barbershop. I went along for an apprenticeship in hairdressing, which was split in half. It was half a barbershop and half a hair salon. And I went along with my sister, actually, and they offered me the job, and she absolutely hated it, and I loved it. So started working in the salon. This was in the country. I'm from Warrnambool originally. Loved it in the barbershop, so spent most of my time in there. But being semi-traditional barbershop, decided to move to the city and try and get a job in barbering in a proper barbershop. Eventually went to Barbara Seville, and Fabian there gave me a go after I completely lied my way through the interview and said I could do everything that barbers do, which I could not, which I found out on my first day. Yeah. And pretty much have taken it from there.
I love the whole thing, from short hair to long hair, but I probably wouldn't lie saying I've always loved doing the nice, like clippering, nice tapers, and anything that looks really nice and clean and sort of classic period. Sort of been doing that a long time.
My favourite style would be pretty much anything that involves clipper work. But my favourite thing to do in the barbershop is actual face shaves. I love the face shaving, so the blade expert. But yeah, any cuts that involve clippering, fading, anything like that. Both love barbering, so we decided to do our own thing. We always wanted to do our own barbershop because both of us have been collecting stuff to open our own barbershop over the years.
Everything in here has I like to think, come from the heart. It's just what we're into. From the bands to the skate decks to the tikis to all that kind of stuff. It's just the stuff we like, and I think with barbershop the cool thing is you can be quite eclectic and you can pretty much throw in anything, and like I said, if it does come from the heart, I think it can all mesh into a shop, and then slowly, hopefully, by the time you've finished your lease, you've filled the place completely and there's not much wall space. I like a barbershop to be pretty full and a lot of stuff going on.
Like everyone loves the whole barbers, suit, tailors, bootmakers, like that kind of older feelings coming back now. I think the younger people are appreciating it again. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. It's trendy.
And also the whole clothing and movie and, you know, all that Mad Men and Boardwalk Empire. It's had huge influence. So that's brought a lot more people back who may be slow coming back to barbershops, but now they're all coming back, and that's why most of us are pretty busy nowadays. So.
Welcome back to Real. If you're just tuning in, throughout the night we've been discussing the global fascination with hair. Right now we're going to look at part 2 of the La Trobe University produced documentary, The Barbershop Quartet. After watching it, you might find that your local stylist offers more than a great do.
My name is Mason Hepburn. I'm from New Zealand, a little small town for Tokoroa. Everyone cuts down trees, that kind of thing. But I've made it all the way over here to Melbourne, and now working at Eureka Rebellion Trading, cutting hair, and yeah, loving it. So it's an amazing crew here. Like, I don't even feel like I'm at work, to be honest. I'm just hanging out with my buddies and, I don't know, talking shit, if I'm allowed to swear. I think the same as me, when I first walked in here, you definitely don't feel, I don't know, out of place, or like sometimes you walk into a place and you're like, oh, what's going on? But here you're just like, just at home, it's really comfortable. I pretty much got into Barbary, it's been a passion of mine. I've always loved getting my hair cut. I've always liked the time I spend at a barber shop. You just go in there, you can just sit down, relax, talk with your barber. And it pretty much came to the time, it's like, I moved to Melbourne, and I didn't want to do what I was doing previously. I was like, all right, what do I really want to do? And it's like, man, I just want to hang out with guys and basically bro down. So, long story short, I studied, did heaps of haircuts at home and in the garage and all that kind of thing with my buddies. Eventually worked my way up to be able to work in this establishment today. My absolute favourite, like, cutting-wise, is just the fades. It's just, I don't know, giving someone just a high and tight fade, or, I don't know, just blending it in just so it's just a seamless blend. That's my favourite. A lot of people come in and ask for all sorts of things. A lot of people have different hair types, so you just work with what they've got. But if it comes down to it, that is definitely my favourite thing to do, is just get the clippers out and just work your way down from a 6 to a 0. My favourite thing about hanging out with guys, giving them haircuts, is pretty much exactly that. Just for one, it's kind of twofold for me. You get to hang out with dudes and just meet guys I would never meet in my normal day life, which is amazing. Like, wow, and I'm interested in what they do and how their life goes. But then also, the other half of that is when they walk out the door and they've had a good time and they're happy with the cut, and you're just like, yep, they're gonna go out and they're gonna have a good night. Or, I don't know, I have a philosophy that's pretty much, if you look good, you feel good. And I can see that on all the guys' faces walking out. They're like, thanks Mason, that was cool, and just they're looking sharp, and I know I've had it myself, so I want to give that to other people. I guess, yeah, our generation of barber and the older generations, they've been doing it for years, and honestly they do amazing cuts. But I'd say it's probably the fact that we do keep current, and of course there are trends and there's fashions.
It reminds me of when I was growing up and visiting shearing sheds, and a lot of people are doing vintage now, but they're not going past that a lot.
But in terms of barbershops, we're still cutting hair. I like to think most of them we're still shaving, face shaving, and we're still doing the classic cuts that are relevant to the time.
I never knew a haircut could be so therapeutic. Certain jobs clearly offer more than what you see at face value. I guess, if nothing else, this should teach us to never underestimate the power of a great updo. We're now joined by Dr. Terry Waddell from La Trobe University Media, Screen and Sound to talk about the cinematic influence of hair. Welcome, Terry. It's lovely to have you tonight.
Hello.
So, Terry, as someone who teaches cinema, could you tell us what kind of role hair plays in telling the overall story in film?
Well, I think hair plays an interesting role in terms of character. The cut of her hair, the colour, The way hair is used, long hair can be seen as vulnerable, it can be seen as powerful. The cutting of hair is also something that signifies, and mythologically it signified a taking away of power. So for example, if you saw women, particularly femme fatales in the 30s and 40s, often signified by women who had dark, longer hair, which changed in the 80s to short, lighter or blonder hair, and I'm thinking of Basic Instinct or Fatal Attraction. And currently, if you look at The House of Cards, which is my favourite television program, you see a wonderful character played by Robin Wright, and she's the wife of a Machiavellian politician, and she's Machiavellian herself, and she has very short hair, a very contained kind of body shape and body image, and that short blonde hair plays into the whole sort of depth of her character, which is really interesting, is that she's dressed and decked out in an extremely contained and controlled way. And you can see this reflected in her haircut. Very short, very tight, very powerful, so that not a hair is out of place, so that her gaze can be direct. And hair can build a character, and also can help an actor very strongly prepare for their character. You can look at Asian cinema too, and you can see evil particularly seems to be signified by young women with extremely long flowing hair that sort of flows behind them in a kind of ghost-like vapour trail.
So how would you say hair influences genre in film?
Well, like I was saying before about certain characters, I think that character allows you into genre. You know, sometimes you have two characters interacting together and you can very quickly see the kind of genre that they're slotted into. So, for example, in the horror film, and the way that hair is used in that, if it's masking the face, if it's being pulled in any certain way, if there's something about it that is wild and ungainly, you know, that all contributes to the suspense. If it's political thriller, you're going to have very contained looks in the characters. If it's romantic comedy, you're going to have a very soft, fluffy kind of feel to it too. So I think it really all goes back to character and to our knowledge of you know, the genre itself and how characters were portrayed within the genre before. What's interesting is that when genre starts to slip into another kind of genre and you get, you know, a new product out of that.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
That's fine.
Well, that concludes our episode on the psychology of hair, but don't wig out because we'll be back next week. That's all from me, but tune in next time when a new host will take you on another journey of adversity and diversity. I'm Louise Bianco. Good night.